Before we begin, let's look at what we are expected to learn today. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to do four things. First, we will see how an absolute value function can actually be written as a piecewise function. Second, we're going to sketch the graph of absolute value function with or without the use of technology. Third, we will present piecewise functions in situations that we encounter in real life, such as fare rates, purchasing, and income tax. And fourth, we will solve practical problems involving piecewise functions. So today, we're not just going to learn another formula. We're going to understand why a function sometimes needs more than one rule. But before this, let's discuss the extra problem I gave in our previous lesson. A construction company is making a solid concrete cube with a side length of 1.2 meters. The client wants a second cube whose side length is twice that of the original cube. Let's start with letter A. What is the volume of the original cube? Let's recall the formula. Volume is equal to S cube. This is a cube. We are given the measurement 1.2 meters as the side length. So we're going to substitute this in our formula. Volume is equal to 1.2 cube, and this is 1.728 cubic meters. Now, letter B, what is the side length of the larger cube? It says here the client wants a second cube whose side length is twice that of the original cube. If the original cube has a side length of 1.2, then the side length of the larger cube is twice of this, and that is equal to 2.4 meters. Letter C, what is the volume of the larger cube? We're going to use the same formula, but this time we're going to substitute 2.4 instead of 1.2. And 2.4 cube is 13.824 cubic meters. Let's continue with letter D. How many times as large is the volume of the larger cube compared with the original cube? Let's recall our answer. The volume of the original cube and the volume of the second cube. The question is how many times as large is the volume of the larger cube compared to the original cube? We're just going to divide volume 2 by volume 1. And this will give us 8. It means the larger cube has 8 times the volume of the original cube. That's what happens when the side length is doubled. The volume is multiplied by 8. And finally, if concrete costs 7,500 pesos per cubic meter, how much will the concrete for the larger cube cost? So we're going to multiply 13.824 by 7,500. So the concrete for the larger cube will cost 103,680 pesos. This is a quick reminder that when a quantity changes, the result doesn't always change in the same way. When we double the side length, the larger cube has 8 times the volume of the original cube. Before we move into today's topic, let's have a quick function flashback. Study each equation and identify its function type. Focus on the most important feature of the equation. Let's start with this one. A function with a variable raised to the first power is linear function. A function containing x squared is quadratic function. A function with a square root symbol is a square root function. A function with a cube root symbol is a cube root function. Finally, a function with absolute value bars is an absolute value function. And today's discussion will focus on absolute value function. Absolute value represents distance from zero. It is always non-negative. So what happens if our x is negative? If x is negative, that means x is less than 0. We negate it to make it positive. We make it negative x. If x is non-negative for values of x greater than or equal to 0, we leave it as x. Absolute value function can be written as f of x is equal to the absolute value of x. Now, if we are going to construct rule for this, I will write f of x is equal. There are two rules. I'm going to use an open brace. So the first one, if x is less than 0, what do? We negate it. We make it negative x. So f of x is equal to negative x if x is less than 0. And if x is greater than or equal to 0, we leave it as it is. So f of x is equal to x if x is greater than or equal to 0. Let us try to substitute points so we could graph it later. So we'll start with if x is less than 0. Let's have negative 2. So if x is negative 2, what we are going to do? Negative of negative 2. And that would be equal to 2. Next, if we have negative 1, that will become negative of negative 1, and that is 1. Next, let's have 0. 0 falls on the second condition. So if x is equal to 0, f of x is just equal to x, meaning the same number. So this is also 0. Now let's have 1. That is greater than 0. So still the answer is 1. And let's have 2. 2 is also greater than 0. So if x is greater than 0, f of x is also x. So 2 for x, f of x is also 2. Now let us graph these points. Let's have a Cartesian plane. Let's start with the first pair of coordinates. We have negative 2, positive 2. Negative 2, positive 2. So it should be here. Next one, negative 1, positive 1. Negative 1, positive 1. Next one, we have 0, 0. That's the origin. Next one, we have 1, 1. Positive 1 on x, positive 1 on y. It's here. And finally, we have 2, 2. Positive 2 on x, positive 2 on y. It's here. Now, let us connect our points. We'll create a V-shaped graph. This is the graph of an absolute value function. Just like the 5 functions we discussed before, the linear, the quadratic, the cubic, the cube root, and the square root, absolute value function can also be transformed. And once again, we're going to use GeoGebra to show you the transformation. So here's the interface of our GeoGebra. Let's start with our mother function, y equals, type in abs for absolute, and then choose this one, and then click X, enter. So this is the absolute value function graph, the one that we did earlier. Let me just change the color, settings, style, I'll make it black. This will be our mother function. Now, what happens if we transform this? I'll just duplicate this one and let me add plus 3. So what happens to our original function? It moved 1, 2, 3, 3 units up. Now, let us untick that. Let me duplicate this, but this time I'll make it minus 2. So our mother function is the block 1. When we added negative 2, our graph moved 2 units down. So once again, this is our K. It controls the movement of the graph up and down. Let's untick this one. Let me duplicate. But this time, I'll add something inside the absolute value. Let's say plus 3. And then I'll remove this one so I can compare it with our mother function. Enter. So our mother function is the block 1. When I added plus 3 inside the absolute value bars, the graph moved 1, 2, 3. 3 units to the left. Let's duplicate this again. This time, I'll make it minus 1. Let's say minus 1. So our mother function is the block 1. So what happened when we added negative 1 inside? It moved 1 unit to the right. Let's untick this both. Let me duplicate this input. This time I'm going to put 2 in front. So what happened with our mother function, the block 1? It becomes steeper. Remember that A is the vertical stretch or compression of our graph. So when we put 2 in front of the absolute value symbol, our graph was vertically stretched. Now what if I'll make it 1/2 instead of 2. 1 over 2. Compare it with the black one, the mother function. So let us untick this one first. So our mother function is the black one. When I put 1/2 in front, what happened? There was a vertical compression. So the A controls the vertical stretch and vertical compression of our graph. Now let us see what will happen if, let me duplicate this one and put negative in front. I'll untick this one first and also the mother function. So this is the graph of 2 times the absolute value of x. And when I place negative in front of 2, what happened to the graph? It reflects across the x-axis. I hope you still remember the effect of making the function negative. It reflects across the x-axis. Will it be the same thing here in 1/2? Let's see. Let us duplicate this one and make 1/2 negative. I'll untick this two first so you would see clearly. So S of x is the violet one, and when I make it negative, it reflects across the x-axis. Once again, the value of A controls the reflection over the x-axis if it is negative, as well as the vertical stretch and the vertical compression. Now you have seen the different transformations of absolute value function. Let us recall the conditions for absolute value functions. Notice that we have two conditions here. That's why an absolute value function is a type of a piecewise function. So what exactly is a piecewise function? A piecewise function is one function that uses different formulas over different intervals of its domain. Let's make that more concrete. Suppose a tricycle fare is 15 pesos for the first 3 kilometers and we add 5 pesos for every kilometer beyond the 3 kilometers. Now let us answer these questions. How much is a 2-kilometer ride? And how much is a 5-kilometer ride? To answer these questions, I'm going to create a piecewise function for these two conditions. So we have f of x is equal to the open brace. And then we have here first 3 kilometers. It means our distance is less than or equal to 3 but greater than 0. And if that's the case, the fare is 15 pesos. So f of x is equal to 15 pesos if x is less than or equal to 3 but greater than 0. First 3 kilometers, it could be equal to 3 or it could be less than 3, but definitely greater than 0. Because once the tricycle moved, even if it's just half-kilometer, you are going to pay the minimum fare. And it cannot be equal to 0 because that means there is no distance traveled. And if there is no distance traveled, then you do not have to pay the fare. Next, the second condition. Every kilometer beyond 3 kilometers, we're going to add 5 pesos. So in this case, if x is greater than 3, so what will be our condition? That will be 15 plus 5 times the quantity x minus 3. If x is greater than 3. What's the 15 for here? 15 is for the flat rate, the first 3 kilometers. And we're just going to add 5 pesos for every kilometer beyond 3. That's why we have here x minus 3. So if you travel more than 3 kilometers, you substitute the distance here and then minus 3 because the 3 kilometers is already 15 pesos. Whatever is the difference, you're going to multiply it by 5. To show you clearly, let us first answer question number 1. How much is a 2-kilometer ride? So our distance here is 2. So we'll have f of 2. That would be equal to 15 pesos. Why? Because 2 is less than 3. And if it is less than 3, the fare is 15 pesos. So that would be equal to 15. A 2-kilometer ride costs 15 pesos. Now, let's answer number 2. How much is a 5-kilometer ride? 5 is greater than 3. So we're going to use the second condition. We will substitute 5 for our x here. and in here. So f of 5 is equal to 15 plus 5 quantity 5 minus 3. And 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. So this is the kilometers beyond 3 kilometers, and we're going to charge 5 pesos for every kilometer. So we're going to multiply this by 5. 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 plus 15 is 25. So a 5-kilometer ride costs 25 pesos. Even without this piecewise function, we can easily analyze the condition. For the first 3 kilometers, that would be 15 pesos fare. Now, for additional kilometer, 5 pesos each. 5 kilometers is 2 kilometers more than 3. So, 5 for each kilometer, 2 times 5 is 10, plus the 3 kilometers flat rate, 15 pesos, will give you 25 pesos. Let's look at another example. 5 keychains cost 40 pesos. Keychains in excess of 5 pieces are charged half the price per piece. Create a function that applies to purchase of 5 or more keychains. First, let's determine the regular price per keychain. So 40 pesos is for 5 keychains. So we're going to divide this by 5, and this is equal to 8. So meaning to say each keychain costs 8 pesos. Now suppose you are going to buy 6 pieces of keychain. First, we are going to divide this into 5 and 1. The first 5 pieces is 40 pesos. How about this one? It says here keychains in excess of 5 pieces are charged half the price per piece. If each piece is 8 pesos, half of that is 4 pesos. So it means this one here will cost you 4 pesos. In total, the 6 keychains will cost 44 pesos. Now, let's create a piecewise function for this. Let me use other letters since we are talking about keychains, and the price, let me use K of P. You can use any letters for this actually. Equals, let's create our open brace. Let's start with the first condition. 5 keychains cost 40 pesos. So meaning to say, if we have 5 pieces of keychains, it will cost us 40 pesos. So K of P is equal to 40 pesos if P is equal to 5. If pieces is equal to 5, then it will cost us 40 pesos. Now, what if it is more than 5? Keychains in excess of 5, meaning if P is greater than 5. What will be our function here? It will be 40 plus the additional cost, 4 pesos, times the quantity P minus 5. Again, this 40 here is for the 5 pieces of keychain. Now, exceeding 5 pieces, P minus 5, will be charged 4 pesos each. Let's see if our answer earlier is correct. Since you are going to buy 6 pieces of keychains, I'll substitute 6 in our P here. 6 minus 5 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. And 4 plus 40 is 44. Since our answer before coincides with our answer when we created this formula, it means our piecewise function is correct. This is another example where the rule changes depending on the number of items purchased. We'll have some more word problems later. Now, let's move from evaluating piecewise functions to graphing them.